Hi Blues, welcome back to Blue Moon Rising TV. It's part 2 of the big summer clear out. Pep Guardiola is having a spring clean, or a summer clean in this case, and lots of players have to make way for the brilliant new ones that are coming in. Guys, are you ready to carry on with the midfielders and strikers?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh yes.
All right, let's go. First name out of the hat is Fabian Delph. Now, we've only had him a season. Is he going to be kept on for the rest of his contract at least?
I'd like to think so. I think young English player. I think Delph's looked promising, and no matter what Villa fans will tell you, he's not been a bench warmer. When he's been fit, he's played. We'll talk about other holding midfielders in a little bit of time. But for me, I think Fabian Delph can compete. If Paul Pogbalicious comes in, if Ilkay Gundogan comes in, it might be a little bit harder for Delph to come in, but I would like to see him stay, and I think other players might make way. You've got to remember that the players around him, Yaya, Fernandinho, I think Yaya's, I'll talk about that in a minute, but they're both getting on. And there is room for Delph to grow into the team.
I think
Walter.
Delph's in a fortunate position that he's a Yorkshireman, he's English. Just for the simple reasons being, he will fulfil that homegrown quota. If you look at the midfielders that we're actually linked with, he ain't going to get a game. I mean, Pep Guardiola was famous for saying, he'd sign pretty much every midfielder in the world. He can't get enough of them. So I do believe that I think he's an inner just because he's English. And if he were to sell him, he'd be the first player in a long time I can remember who would actually make quite a decent profit on him.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I actually think Delph's got quite a lot to contribute, and I think he'll be happy in not playing every single game. I don't think he'll be a bench warmer. I think he'll get game time. We're going to be in a lot of competitions next season, hopefully not the Europa League. But and if we are in the Europa League, I'm sure he'll be happy to play away in Liechtenstein as well. So I'm going to say into. Next up is Fernando. I don't know what to say about Fernando, so you say something, please.
He's done the job this year. I think the general consensus on Fernando, at least the people who sit around me, is like, oh, Fernando's actually all right. And that seems to be where it finishes, is that it just kind of, he's not blown everyone away. He looked a bit wobbly when he first signed, but I think he's earned his stripes and he's done a job. And I think if he were to leave this summer, he's not going to go down as one of those players, the likes of Joe or Bianchi that you look at and go, oh, can't believe we spent a fortune on him or whatever. Because I think he's come all right. I wouldn't stretch to say he's come good. Grow up, Walter. Oh, man. This channel is one long knob gag with Walter Smith.
I didn't.
that in itself, one long knob gag was a knob gag. Fernando is, I think he's done well, but I think he probably
From one knob to another.
And I think if Delph is going to stay, Fernando, I'm afraid, probably one for the outs.
Walter, what do you think? Keep it clean.
Oh, no, I always do. And if I look at Fernando and I look at the way Pep Guardiola likes to set up a midfield and the passing range that he likes from his midfielders, the guy's gone out.
Okay, I'm going to agree with you there. And let's say out. Next up, potential player of the season, Fernandinho.
Yeah. Fernandinho in. I think he is getting on a little bit. He's now the wrong side of 30, but I think he's worth his place. I think Fernandinho in.
Walter?
I'm definitely. He's a definite inner, isn't he? I mean, he's a box man. The one thing about Fernandinho is he never seems to run out of energy. I mean, I don't know what they're feeding him, but he just keeps on going. He's over 30, but he can still do a job. I personally believe he's a definite inner as well.
Yeah, I think he's got a few years where he's going to be at the top of his game yet. I think he could get even better. So yeah, I'm going to say in there. Next up, another player who we've not seen a lot of this season. God, the story goes on and on. It's the same with quite a few of these. But Sami Nasri, what do we think? A lot of people say that he is actually, in many ways, a very prototypical Pep player.
Yeah, man. I think he comes from the Arsene Wenger school of pass it sideways, doesn't he? But also pass it sort of diagonal so it goes through a player and that little one that goes over the top and round the back. He knows how to unlock defences. And I look at the United game, I look at the Kiev game, I look at the Norwich game, those games where we've had 18,000% possession and not been able to find the way through. And Sami Nasri, he just finds the key to the back door. And for me, I think he's a great player, Sami Nasri. And he's unfortunate to get an injury at the start of the season. And in the next 4 weeks, I think we're going to see just how valuable Sami Nasri can be. And I think he'll earn his place in the next 4 weeks by keeping us in the top four. Sami Nasri in for me.
I think with Sami Nasri, one of his best sort of attribute is he doesn't give the ball away. He retains it. You pass it to him, he's not going to give that ball away. The other thing I love about him is he's actually got that eye for a pass as well. The only problem with Sami Nasri, and the way I feel that he might not fit in with Pep, is this idea of working the other side of the ball. Once he's been tackled, he ain't the man to get the ball back. So whether Pep can introduce that into his game plan, I mean, he's obviously going to have long conversations with him. For me, I would keep him because I think he's going to be fresh and he's got points to prove as well after having such a long injury and being out for such a long time.
Okay, so where are we putting him there then?
In.
What are we saying?
In.
Okay, Sami Nasri is an in. Next, Manchester City's own headless chicken, Jesus Navas.
Oh, that's harsh, man. I spent my life defending Jesus Navas now. Last season, same number of assists as David Silva. This season, if anyone can say that Navas has had more bad games than good, they're wrong. They're not watching properly. Pellegrini's finally worked out how to work Navas, and that is to use him as an impact player, use him as an outlet. Don't rely on him as your one source of crosses because that's not the best of his ability. He works hard and he earns it. And you know what? On the United derby, he was the one. He looked like he wanted it more than anybody else. And for me, like as long as he's hungry, as long as he cares, Navas in.
Certainly wears his heart on his sleeve, doesn't he, Walter?
Yeah, he certainly does. I mean, the thing is with Navas is he works both sides of the ball. He'll just trap back, he'll chase back, and he's quite, as they say, he's a good outlet. He will relieve pressure. Now, whether Pep Guardiola actually wants to start playing with the wingers, and especially him out wide, I mean, people slate his crossing, and I don't know if he's under instructions from Manuel Pellegrini not to beat the last man and whip the ball in. I'm not overly sure because he very rarely seems to do it, but he has got the pace for it. He retains the ball well as well, does Navas. I like Navas as well, and I think he's one of them players that you really start to appreciate if you actually watch him live. I think on the TV, when you're watching a highlights package, he can look bloody useless. But the whole point is that's just picking out certain segments of his game. I like Navas, and I'd like to see him given a run under Pep as well. So, yeah, he's a keeper for me.
Okay, we're saying in. David Silva, another big debate potentially here. I did a video not so long ago asking about the severity of his injuries. Oh my God, this recurring themes again and again. David Silva, have we seen the best days of him already? The silence speaks volumes.
Yeah, in certain respects, yeah, we have seen the best days of David Silva, but we've actually seen him at Manchester City. I mean, he's the one player that can unlock any defence in the world. And the thing is, I always feel he gets targeted now. He's the one player that is inventive at City, so you get the big brutes sort of coming in and tapping those ankles on him. And the problem with David Silva, again, is those ankles. And I know Pep Guardiola likes to keep a small squad as well. So he doesn't like to have injury-prone players playing in these type of squads. So whether that's going to count against Silva or not, I'd like to keep Silva because if his legs do go, you're not overly going to notice because his game's not built around pace. It's all upstairs that he actually thinks about the game. And the thing about David Silva I absolutely love is the fact that he never plays the wrong ball. He might not actually fulfill what he wants to do, but he never plays the wrong ball. The guy's almost like he's in the Matrix. He gets the ball and everything in his mind just slows down around him and he can just slide that pass. But whether Pep wants to keep him with that injury record, time will tell. We'll find out this summer, but he's in for me.
He's a footballing genius, isn't he, without doubt, Alex?
Yeah.
But do you think that there's space for him in Guardiola's squad?
What Walter said, man. I think Walter nailed it there. I think for me,
we don't have you on just to say what Walter said.
Sorry, all right. But yeah, I think Walter nailed it. I think David Silva, he's a top player. Maybe he is coming to sort of the end of his peak. But I'll go back to what I said in the first video about Vincent Kompany, is we rely on Silva an awful lot. And that means that when he got injury, all footballers get injuries. He had to come back and he was thrown in playing 90 minutes against top opponents, trying to dig us out against Dynamo Kiev, when really, when players coming back from injuries, they should only be playing 15 minutes at the end of the game and playing for the youth team and all the rest of it and chilling out. And I think that's probably inhibited Silva's performance a little bit. So hopefully, Spain won't rely on him too much in their national team. He should get quite a quiet summer. I mean, obviously, that's not going to be the case. Obviously, Spain are going to destroy the European Championships and get to a final, and he'll come back knackered again. But I'm hoping that maybe, they kind of rest him a little bit and he's not too strained, and we'll see David Silva back at his best and do the damage that we know he can do.
Okay, so we're going to say in or out?
In.
Perfect. Okay, let's go in. I think we don't have to talk about this player for very long because again, he's another player with an injury. But when he has played, he's been phenomenal, especially at home. Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah, man. De Bruyne in. No, next question.
Walter,
I'm inclined to agree. The thing is with De Bruyne is he is just the Mr. Assist, and he's another player that I often see him as the long-term successor for David Silva. I think it's the first time when the Silva was out injured, we didn't overly miss him because De Bruyne was there. The guy's absolute quality. And I often wonder to myself, did Pep have any discussions about City signing him over a year ago? Off the record, of course.
I wouldn't be surprised. I've heard rumblings as well. Okay, so that is a resounding yes for Kevin De Bruyne, the Ginger Prince, whatever you want to call him, the Fresh Prince of Ginger Hair. Next name on the list is somebody you can't really mention without somebody talking about his price tag. It's Raheem Sterling.
It's cost a lot of money, but if he's going to play for 5 years at City, which I think is completely unrealistic, he cost 50 million. That's 10 million a season. If you'd offered me this season for Raheem Sterling at 10 million pounds, he scored 10 goals, probably like 5, 6, 7 assists on top of that. Looked dangerous every time he's got the ball. Performed pretty consistently. All right, he didn't turn up against Liverpool ever in the season, but we'll forgive him that. I think he's come good. I think he's been value for money. If you'd offered me that this season, 10 million. Hopefully next season.
What's the potential to improve, right? He's only young. People
yeah, what is he now, 21? I think, he's going to go to the Euros. Hopefully, if he's fit, he's got a big summer ahead of him, get some big game experience. I'm hoping next season, same again. If he scores another 10 goals, another 10 assists next season, that's a productive season for a player in his position, and I think worthwhile. That said, he's neither a Pep sort of striker, and Pep's not a massive fan of wingers. I could easily see Pep saying, "I'm not really sure what to do with him," and maybe moving him on. But where does he go? I can't see us selling him to United. I can't see him particularly fitting in at Chelsea. I'm sure Arsene Wenger would like him very much, but Raheem Sterling likes winning trophies. So I think Sterling will probably say, just on account of the fact that there's not a buyer for him, he's done the job, he's English, and we spent an absolute fortune on him.
Walter, do you think City would be prepared to sell Raheem Sterling even if they wanted to? We spent a lot of money on him.
No. I mean, as I said, I'm slightly inclined to disagree with Alex. I think he is a Pep player. Now, the reasons I think that are, he'd play on the left-hand side of a front three. Now, the problem with him at the moment is he's played as an out-and-out winger. That's it. And our counter-attacking style is slow. It's ponderous. And by the time the ball gets to him, you see opposition's defences are all lined up. He's got 2, possibly even 3 players to beat. So would I sell Raheem Sterling? Well, put it this way. Liverpool blew all their Raheem Sterling money on Benteke. I mean, they had to give 10 million to QPR, and it cost us 44. So I know we've got the better deal out of that. And he's young, and I think once, as I keep saying, once Pep gets into these players' head and sells them his philosophy and plays him in position, I think we're going to see young Raheem explode.
Squawka labelled him as the 3rd best player in the world under 23. That's worth bearing in mind in terms of his potential, which I'm sure we're going to see over the next couple of seasons. So we're going to say in for him. Yeah. Patrick Roberts, we'll just gloss over this because he's got another season at Celtic on loan, hasn't he? That's obligatory. So he's going to be at City, but really he's going to be at Celtic, so we'll move on. I think we would, without a shadow of a doubt, a show of hands, we would be saying yes to Pat Roberts, right?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. Brilliant. It's just like being back in school. Yaya Toure, another huge debate. I think a lot of people at the start of the season or halfway through were saying definitely out. All the stuff with his agent, slagging off Guardiola. We know they don't have the best of relationships. Yet he's fought himself back into the front of the team. Is he in or is he out?
No, he's still out, and I'm delighted that he's come back into form because I think this season he's been a bit average. And we know that Yaya Toure is a world-class player. At the start of the season, he looked a bit poor. He picked up a little bit, but he looked disinterested compared to the Yaya Toure of a couple of seasons ago. And I'm glad that he's come back into form because he's almost definitely going this summer. I think Beijing, Shanghai or Guangzhou, take your pick, Yaya, but I think you're going to China. Maybe.
Is he putting himself into the shop window, do you think?
Perhaps, but either way, I think it's nice that we're gonna remember Yaya as the player who runs riot and scores goals and creates goals and is unmanageable in terms of who he is as a player. And that's how I want us to remember him. I don't want us to remember him walking around against Norwich looking a little bit bored. I want him to remember Yaya Toure at his best. I think that's what we're seeing a little glimpse of. And even at his best this season, he's a fraction of who he was a couple of years ago when he was scoring 18 goals from the holding role. He's magnificent, but I think the time is now. The time is now, Yaya.
One of the best players the Premier League's ever seen, I think, Walter. But is his time up?
Well, I've labelled Yaya as the most important signing that City ever made under Sheikh Mansour. I mean, the reasons for that are he opened the gateways and the doorways to your Silvas, etc., to come along. Yaya, it's just... I love the guy. Anybody who watches any of my videos know I love Yaya. Is it his time? I mean, it's like Groundhog Day. His agent has been in the papers again, and he's saying he's not appreciated. I'm just thinking, who in the world gets more appreciation than Yaya Toure? I mean, as a man, we could make discussions all day long about the rights and the wrongs and his impact on the dressing room, whether it's good, bad, negative, or what. But what I think is, as a footballer, I'd love to, in an ideal world, we're creating this ideal world scenario, I'd love to see Yaya Toure coming off the bench, half an hour to go in each game. I just think he could absolutely destroy teams at that point. Would it be good for Yaya? No, I'm living in a dream world when I think like that. I think he's going to go to a slower league and absolutely boss it. I think the guy's just... incredible in terms of his ball retention, the way he holds it. He just bounces people off him. He's got an eye for goal. I mean, someone scored, I think it was Dele Alli scored a goal this year, and someone said it was a Yaya. It's just that nonchalant style of swinging it and just connecting. And the goal against Kiev, the goal against Arsenal, I love Yaya, but unfortunately, I think his time is up because I don't think he's going to take my advice and sit on the bench and try and earn his bucks that way.
It was really nice.
Telling the grandkids all about Yaya Toure's screamers and knocking him into the corner from 20 yards, 25 yards, aren't we? But Alex, you wanted to say one final point?
Oh, there was a really nice thing on the BBC about that Alex Teti goal you were talking about where he came off and said, I've done a Yaya. And it was about, they analysed how Yaya Toure kicks the ball. And he's actually reinvented it. He hits... on those screamers, more often than not, he's hitting the ball with the back of his heel. And that's what gives it that ridiculous angle. It was a really kind of tedious, geeky analysis of Yaya Toure that football nerds like myself like. But it just shows that Yaya's reinvented the game in his own little way. In the same way people are talking this week about Johan Cruyff reinventing the game. Yaya, to maybe not the same extent, but it's possible that we're going to see that I've done a Yaya talked about in the playgrounds, talked about in the youth academies around the country, because Yaya Toure made his own little stamp on the game.
And they don't mean sitting down on the floor and taking 5 minutes to get back up when you do a Yaya. That's something else.
He is the one player when he goes down at City and you're thinking, is this a career-ending injury? And you see who's gone down, it's Yaya. You think, I'll be up in a few minutes. He loves to lie down.
After those blistering runs, can you blame him? Yes. All right, next. Bruno Zuccolini. I don't know really what to say about him. Was he been a mistake on City's part?
No, I don't think having a go at developing a young player is ever a mistake. I don't think that's the right attitude to take as well. But Zuccolini, he's older than you'd think, isn't he now? He's 23. Is that right? He's older than you'd think. And I think he's someone who's probably not going to make it into the City first team squad. And I think it's probably time for Zuccolini to move and accept that. I'm sure there's lots of clubs around Europe that would like to take him, but I think Zuccolini out.
2 seasons where he's had fairly decent pre-seasons abroad, and then he's just kind of disappeared. It's a weird one, isn't it, Walter?
Well, it is weird. I mean, I saw him on the pre-season tour in Australia, and I thought the guy looks... You're thinking, have they discovered a gem? And then you're sort of looking at the first team sheets in August, in September, and October, etc., and you're just not seeing this guy starting any games. So he's gone, isn't he? End of. I mean, I've not seen a great deal of him to actually offer a strong opinion either way, but I think that speaks volumes in itself.
Okay, I think he's gonna be gone. Let's move on to the strikers now, and one of the best strikers this country has ever seen, Sergio Kun Agero. What have we got to say about this man? What is there left to say about this man?
He's the man, isn't he? He's the man. He's our only proper forward in terms of someone you can rely on over the course of the season. It'd be madness, and I think Pep will probably use him as the number 9 for that front three that we're talking about, and whether he's paired with who he's paired with, I think is more the talking point.
I was just going to say, somebody you can rely on, and you can rely on him in terms of his ability, certainly, but he's another player who's very injury prone. Can we rely on a player who's so injury prone? We've got him all over the pitch now.
I've said this before, I'll say it again. Sergio Aguero has worked out how to be a foreign Galactico playing in the Premier League, and that is to invent a hamstring injury in October, so you get to avoid the nice cold, playing in the snow, playing in the rain, and suddenly reappear again in February when the sun starts to come out again. Does it every year?
Somehow still get golden boot.
Yeah. He's done it. He gives himself a winter break. But I think that raises the issue. We got stung by it again this season. Bonnie didn't really produce the goods in his placement. And I think that's what we are probably going to see a striker come in. And I think hopefully Kelechi will have more of a role this season under Pep. But we do... Aguero can be relied on in terms of ability as the number 9. But Messi had an injury this season, an injury last season. So I think these big clubs know that you've got players that you can rely on, but injury is always a worry.
Okay, I think we're just going to move on because we know the score with Sergio Aguero. We want him in. We just want to keep him fit as much as possible. The next name's probably equally obvious. What we think, Wilfried Bony, ladies and gentlemen.
I think he's got to go. I mean, if I look at the way Pep likes to set his teams up, and I look at the mobility of the 3 forwards, that's what I was thinking. You've got Sterling, Aguero, and if there is another forward, you would bring them in there, but it's certainly not going to be Bonnet. He's about as mobile as that statue on a Morecambe Beach of Eric. He just sort of sits, he just doesn't move. And the guy's undoubtedly got quality. And you were talking about players before that are going to go to another club and sting us. He's definitely one, because he has got the attributes if you build a team around him. But City are playing at a higher level than that, really. So, Bonnie, sorry, pal. There's the door.
He's got the turning circle of a 10-ton truck, hasn't he, Alex?
Yeah. Walter's nailed it there. I think he's the sort, we know he can do it. 28 goals in the Premier League for Swansea, doesn't lie. He can do it, but he did never really fit into Pellegrini's style of play. He was brought to fit into a 4-4-2. I very, very much doubt Guardiola's going to play 4-4-2. I think Bonnie's going to go. And he will sting us. Because Lukaku will leave Everton. They'll bring Bonnie in as a perfect replacement. He'll score 15 goals for Everton, including 2 on Merseyside. And we'll all say, why did we let Bonnie go? But for now, I'm saying Bonnie out.
Okay, so we're saying definitely out for Wilfried Bony. Just going to gloss over the 2 players who are out on loan but have an obligation to be bought, Stefan Jovetic and Edin Dzeko. So they're both definitely got to go. Whether that's right or wrong, that's for you to decide. And the last name on the list, and this is a positive for us to end on, our young Nigerian startler. He got his first full debut for Nigeria. He got an assist. Kelechi Iheanacho, the world is this man's oyster, right?
I would definitely say so. He reminds me of a young Ian Wright. He's very mobile, he links up well, and he's got what Ian Wright had was that absolute eye for goal. I think this guy, given the playing time, as you say, the world's his oyster. So to let him go would be absolute madness. So with Aguero, having his injury problems, Iheanacho is just an absolute ideal replacement to come in. Whether he's going to be happy with that long term, that's up to Pep to kind of smooth over those feathers. But for me, absolute in, no question.
Alex?
Yeah, lethal young striker, loads of confidence, looks completely unfazed, by big games, by expectation. And I think he's going to be unfazed by Pep. I get the impression, I picture this scene that everyone's chatting in the dressing room, they're all nervous. Pep Guardiola steps in and the dressing room falls silent and Kelechi's there mucking around on his mobile phone because he's unfazed. But, he gets away with that sort of stuff because he goes out onto the pitch and he scores a goal. And that's what you want from your strikers. And I think Kelechi Iheanacho, I don't want to jinx it because it gets said about young players all the time. But I think he's going to go all the way. I think he's going to be one of those players that just future African Footballer of the Year, future Champions League top goal scorer. Why not? He looks like a real classy forward that gets the business done and has got all the attributes to do that. So if we're going to let him go now, we're going to look like United letting Pogba go or letting Piqué go, and we're not about that. Let's take this young player. Let's turn him into a star.
Nice dig there.
Yes. Very exciting times for Kelechi Iheanacho. I think that everyone's going to say in future when he becomes the amazing player that he is. I know Alex didn't want to put pressure on him, but I'm going to. Everyone's going to say Pellegrini gave him his chance, but I think under Guardiola we're really, really going to see him blossom. Guys, that's the whole squad we've just been through. Hopefully, I'm going to send this video over to Manchester City just so they know. Email it over to Pep so he knows Walter's and Alex's opinions on his squad. So he's got all the notes there. But it's up to you guys. What do you think in the comments? Drop a like if you've enjoyed this extra long video. Have we been too brutal? Have we not been brutal enough? Would you cull even more players? Tell us out of the midfielders and attackers who you think's going to get the chop on the 1st of July. We're all so excited. I can't wait. It's going to be a revolution at City. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We'll see you later.